All right, folks, welcome back to another video after what 29 days and 16 hours of not uploading and recording anything. Well, I did record during that time, but I just didn't upload anything because I'm not gonna lie, it's getting to the point where the thumbnails are kind of slowing me down, not even the actual recording. But anyway, defensive and offensive arrays. Okay, it's super simple. It's simply just arrays that are defensive and offensive. Well, what exactly does that mean, JJ? Now, before a narrative begins or an algorithmic program is about to deliver, what must happen? Some sort of preparation, right? Some sort of accumulation, preparation, or some sort there has to be some sort of origin, which typically that origin point is a preparation in the form of a break in market structure. It can be power of three, but there is some sort of preparation. You get what I'm saying? I'm sure you understand that by now. So since you understand that, after the preparation is over with, normally you would see price start to deliver. Okay. And when it starts to deliver, it'll either, drop down a little bit, or like for example, right, you see how price prepares up here, and then it drops down. Let me go to the 4 hour. It's better because applying this concept is best on the 4 hour and daily. Just applying this concept alone, because using it on like the hour and anything lower is it's too sporadic. Okay, because you obviously it's 9:30 open. You're not gonna be able to find out the difference between offensive and defensive arrays just on that low. You get what I'm saying? During that fast, quick, and explosive price action, you're just not gonna be able to do it. So for not necessarily weekly, but you can do daily narratives, weekly narratives, and even monthly narratives if you want with this. But I would personally say, if you're doing intraday trading or day trading, use this from the 4 hour and daily, or apply this concept on those time frames. Okay. Now, for example, you see how price is consolidating here, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Right? Got that intermediate term low. Now this is where it starts running. Okay, this right here is where it's actually beginning. Okay, because this is the start of this entire rundown here. Right? Now, after the preparation, there will be an offensive array that price will use. You're probably like, what does offensive mean? Offensive basically means like what will propel the run. That's like the real propeller of the run, the offensive array. So what is the offensive array in this situation? The offensive array is the array that really starts the run, gets the run going, or continues it even further. Okay. In short, it is the actual array that the algorithm uses to primarily get all of its what's the word? All of its liquidity and fuel from to actually run and propel even further. In which in this case, the start of the run would be right there at that order block. See that right there? See that? Actually, no. Would this be no? Because there's a order block right. Hold on. You know I'm super intricate. Hold on. Let me see something. Okay, wait. There is an order block here. We came back into it. And we started dropping lower, but that's not enough of a drop for this order block to be exhausted. Yeah, no. Okay, so instead, it'll actually be that propulsion block, the deepest uppermost candle going into that right there. So this propulsion block, my bad. I got to be super intricate and precise with these things. So this propulsion block would be your offensive array if price respects it. If it respects it, typically, okay, if you see confluence and evidence that price wants to go lower, that would be your offensive array because we've already prepared, we've done what we need to do. I'm not going to go over everything that happened here, but there is confluences for prices to go down in this area here, okay? And matter of fact, I don't even okay, because I was looking at this candle here and I was seeing price respect, and I thought, okay, maybe this is the propulsion block and this might be an order block actually. But okay, whatever. We're just going to consider it a propulsion block for now, just from what we've seen right here. So that would be your offensive array because it's the first array that's referenced, respected, and then has that movement away from it. Okay, so how is this useful? You're like, okay, we will. That's obvious, JJ, but how in the world do we use this? Now, how you really use this is the defensive part. The defensive arrays is really what's going to help you, but the offensive can really show you the willingness and the actual displacement in price. Like, okay, after this propulsion block, what comes next is a defensive array. Simple as that. Defensive. Now, where is that defensive array? Where would that be at, JJ? Well, we got to find out. There's a whole bunch of arrays around here, but let's see if I can find something. There might be even a daily one around here. Let's see. Okay, I think that is yeah, that's that same order block over there, I think. Hold on, let me check. Yep, that's that same order block right there. So there really isn't anything here if I'm being honest with you. Um, yeah, there's like hardly anything because if I drop to the hour, it's gonna look too sporadic and all over the place. Yeah, see, look at that. It just looks too much all over the place. So after that propulsion block, your what's the word? If I can even get it wholly, your defensive array could listen to me could possibly be this breaker block. I think that's one on the daily. I'm not too sure. Oh no, it didn't break that high. Dang, there's like really no defensive array here. Okay, this is a little bit weird for me. This might look oh, okay, there we go. That's what I was looking for. I was looking for some sort of gap, and I knew there was a gap in there. So this would be your defensive array. So this is what really plays the role to see if price wants to continue or not. Okay. You're probably like, doesn't the offensive array do that? The offensive array is what keeps it going. The defensive array is what will cause it to reverse or stop. Simple as that. So since we've already been on the offensive here, we've already initiated the move lower. Now you just have this gap here. This is the next array that forms within that offensive swing, dropping lower, after preparing and all that. So we've offended, or whatever you want to say. And now we have that gap right there. See that right there? We retrace back up into it. You want to apply the quadrants and stuff? Sure, sure. I'll do that for you. Oh, why is it on the TGIF preset? I gotta put it on quadrants. Okay, there we go. Look at that candle closure. Beautiful. Look at that. We come back up into it, hit equilibrium, touch the upper quadrant, close below the upper quadrant and the equilibrium. We respect it, so that shows that price wants to keep going down and down and down and down and down. Now, after a defensive array has been respected, confirming that price wants to keep going, now you just have to really, really see if it wants to keep going by using an offensive array, which will propel it even further. In which that defensive array, I mean not defensive, but offensive array, that's my bad. This offensive array would be this suspension block right there. See that? Where's suspension block? There we go. Oh, that's a beautiful color. I made it that. That's a nice color. Nice little teal, turquoise, whatever you want to call it. But as you can see, right here on this candle, we bump into it, respect it, don't even touch the equilibrium, which is extremely good. So it shows that we're on the offensive, and then we proceed to drop. What's this? Oh, yeah, 1,161 points. I think that's enough evidence for you. I would say so at least. Right? Right? I would say so. Now, a couple questions that I need to also answer myself, because this is just a not necessarily a rough draft. I've done a lot of back testing and theoretical analysis on this concept and just understanding it. But the one question I still need to ask myself and figure out is what happens if a offensive array is disrespected? That means that just from using like common knowledge from my 4 years, probably means that it's simply manipulation. Like for example, if it was to respect this a little bit and then come back up and run through it, it's likely that that's just manipulation, okay? And that's not the real direction that price wants to go, basically, okay? So if you see that preparation, then you see that next array where price is about to go down, or you see the point exactly where price is about to, actually start delivering lower, and that array that gets referenced gets disrespected, then it's likely that price just simply does not want to go in that direction, or it hasn't fully prepared yet. And it might need to do some other things, might need to wait on certain time intervals and stuff like that. So that's a little question I had to answer myself because I literally my way of teaching is so weird, like and complex. Like, okay, this might sound a little weird, right? But while I was showing you this, right, in my head, I thought about the question, well, then you could contradict yourself, JJ, and be like, um, obviously, the defensive array is the defensive array to see if price is going to keep going. But what if the defensive array never even forms and the offensive array gets disrespected? I had to think about that in my head, think about an answer, and then basically tell it to you. So I was confused, and in result, you got the answer to my confusion. So it's a little complex way of teaching, but it works. All right, so what were we going over before I got distracted? Okay, yeah, so we had our offensive propulsion block, right? Let me drag that over a little bit. Had that offensive propulsion block, then we had this defensive fair value gap, which forms inside of the what's the word? Offensive leg or offended leg right here, in which it jumps back up into the defensive array, respect it, showing that price wants to go lower, it goes lower. Then we form that offensive array in that defensive swing going lower. So that suspension block right there comes into it, respects it, goes lower. Simple as that. Now, once you see, remember array exhaustion? Remember that? Once you see that it's, moved away, in which when I say moved away, I mean moved away like a lot, like like 1,000 point type of thing, like a lot, only within 2 days. That's a lot. Like just imagine catching 1,160 points in 2 days. It says one day, but these are two separate bars. So in 2 days, that's what happened. Just off of that offensive, delivery from that suspension block, which is crazy. So we're going to go over a couple more examples. It's already been 10 minutes into this recording. That was a bearish example. Let's go over a bullish example. We're going to keep that there. We might come back and reference it. I'm not too sure. All righty. Let's see here. Okay. So this is a nice scenario over here, I think. Obviously, I don't script my videos or have some sort of paper above my monitor saying, okay, read this, go to this timestamp. No, I don't do that. This is all raw footage. All right. So we have this consolidation here, or this accumulation, manipulation, distribution. When we manipulated, we came back down into these lows here. Those two right there, ran those, and then came all the way down over here into a super duper duper deep discount, like super duper. Want to see? Like super duper scarily deep discount. Well, I'm going to show you. Right there. Super duper. Look at that. From here to here. That's all we had left, which is about 180 points. Well, no, is it 120? I don't know what that is, but it's something around there. We only had that amount of points before actually breaking that low and creating a new dealing range, which could have been pretty bad. But thankfully, we did not do that. We just reached a super, 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 super deep discount before wiping out all the buyers, okay? Well, all the retail buyers, of course, because we're smart money buyers. We're not going to sit there and set our stops below these lows. Who would do that? Obviously, we're not going to do that. So we have the preparation already. We accumulated, we manipulated. Now it's time to what? It's time to distribute, time to go higher, it's time to offend. So what would be your offensive array? Okay, what would it be? It could be this balanced price range right here. See that? Bearish fair value gap. Then you have bullish fair value gap right over it. See that? Super, super simple. So actually, oh wow, wait, hold on. Do you guys notice this? Look here, look here. This might be something I need to think about. We have, okay, remember how fair value gaps expand or go out? What's the word? They go even further beyond their actual range if there is a volume imbalance within those three candles, in which there's one right there. So I'm thinking about it, right? And okay, that's the entire range, right? But that fair value gap only overlaps that part of the bearish fair value gap, right? So, well, yeah, in a sense, because, well, no. That's actually super weird. You guys see what I'm talking about? But okay, we're just going to use this regular fair value gap here, like the actual, typical formation of it, right? Like so. So this would be your proportion, not proportion block. I keep saying just random words. I'm not even thinking. But here would be your balanced price range right there, in which, as you can see, one tap, consolidate, boom, explosion. So what would be your defensive array? Your defensive array would be this fair value gap right here. Okay, just to confirm that it wants to keep going higher. Comes down, respects it, keeps going higher. Why this fair value gap? Why this? And not this breaker block? Why not? Because the fair value gaps are really, really good in this scenario. One, because that's where interbank order flow really, really comes into place. Okay, so if you start seeing fair value gaps getting respected, and that's why I say use this on the 4-hour and daily, because where are the institutions in the interbank lying at? On the 4-hour, daily, weekly, and monthly, up there on those time frames. So I'm not saying that for no reason. And then the second reason that I'm using this fair value gap, or just really, really paying attention to the fair value gaps as a defensive array, is because it indicates displacement. Okay. So if you're going back to the origin point of displacement and we're referencing it again, obviously you would want to see it respected because it's displacement. If you understand displacement and you've watched a video on it, or my video in particular, because I teach it pretty well, not being egotistical, I'm just saying I teach it pretty well. But if you understand displacement and how important it really is, you'd understand that, oh, I have this fair value gap drawn in the wrong place. I'm just talking all that crap. And I have the fair value gap drawn in the wrong place. But if you understand displacement, you'd understand that if we come into this gigantic fair value gap after respecting that balanced price range and delivering higher, once we respect that, that's a very, 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 very strong sign. And the fact that it was an institutional order flow entry drill is even stronger. Like barely even going into it. Like we went into it what? Let's see. 30 point. Well, 40 points. Super, super, super confluential. Understood? Okay, understood, understood. Now, since we got that defensive array that's been respected, it's going to keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. What would be your offensive array? What would it be? It could be one of these fair value gaps because remember, these fair value gaps are created whenever they're just this where blah, blah, blah. I'm going to keep that in. That was a crazy stutter, but I'm going to keep that in. Fair value gaps form whenever there is displacement. So if we come back into that area at which price, I said price, in which price displaced before, holy tongue twister. But if we come back into that point at which price displaced before, and we respect that, that's showing that we want to keep displacing because displacement is a super, 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 super strong confluence. I've taught this for what 3 years now. You have to understand that displacement is super duper strong. So once you understand that, you can use one of these fair value gaps as an offensive array also. Not saying that we're just recycling the fair value gap over and over and over again and we're only using fair value gaps. They're just super duper strong in these scenarios whenever you see that one's been respected and is creating more and still pressing higher and still going and still going and still going. But obviously, since we have displaced the way and we're likely not going to come back down here, and we mainly just want to keep going and keep going and keep going, um, the offensive array would be this order block right there. That would be your offensive array. Now, I would say you could use immediate rebalances as an offensive, not necessarily an array, but as an offensive signature. Okay. The reason I say that is because a immediate rebalance is a fair value gap, right? Okay. So here, listen to what I'm saying here. An immediate rebalance is a gap that got created when there was displacement, but price decided to manipulate temporarily, create an immediate rebalance, and to then displace even further. So actually, this immediate rebalance would be your offensive signature. So if you see that immediate rebalance form, and then you have another offensive array, I just burped. But if you see another offensive array that forms right after it, in which this is one of those scenarios, I'm not going to sit here and say you should always expect this, but this is just a scenario where that happens. So you have that offensive signature right here. Then that offensive array, you have the last candle that's supposed to displace from the immediate rebalance, or the immediate rebalance is violated, in which it jumps up and does that. Boom. And then we come back down into the offensive array again and create another immediate rebalance in which we deliver back up again. And then look at that. We come back down into this propulsion block right there. We drop down into it, which will be this will be your defensive array, remember, because we go from the order is preparation slash whatever you want to call it, preparation slash manipulation to offensive to defensive to offensive to defensive to offensive to defensive. Okay, so it's preparation, offensive, defensive, and then it starts all over again without the preparation, of course. So it'll be like this. Let me just write it down for you so you can visually see it. Oh, why do I have caps lock on? Preparation to wait, no, like that, to offensive, to defensive, to offensive, to defensive, to offensive. Okay, understood? Understood, understood, understood. And then it'll likely end off with defensive because defensive is the one that actually indicates that the run or the narrative is about to end. Super simple, right? So this propulsion block right here, in which I'm not labeling them, that's my bad. But we're going to label this as order block or order cock and label this one as propulsion cock or propulsion block. Where is it at? Up, where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay, so this propulsion block would be your defensive array now because we've already displaced away from these offensive arrays. But since we've displaced away, we have to confirm if price wants to keep displacing with the next array that forms, in which that would be your propulsion block right here. Comes down, respects it, never touches equilibrium. As you can see, you can just eyeball it and see. And then guess what? We start displacing even further. Amazing. Beautiful, right? Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Now, this is a little bit of a weird scenario, right? But we have this volume balance right there, right? In which typically, when there's a fair value gap, you would expand it into that volume balance. So let me think about this real quick because this is something I got to figure out too. I've seen this formation form multiple times, but I just never knew how to treat it if price tried to come back down and immediately rebalance it. So let me think about that. Um, that would be that's weird. I might have to answer this a little bit later, in which I might just make like a small video on this particular formation. But I guess for now we could consider it an immediate rebalance or and or an offensive signature, in which that offensive signature clearly, you know, delivers, and then it just keeps going, keeps going, keeps going, and then the cycle just it keeps going. So um, I guess that's really it. Yeah, that was a pretty simple teaching, honestly. I do talk a lot, but obviously I'm not talking for no reason. 20 minutes and 14 seconds of recording. That's not too bad. This is the end of defensive and offensive arrays. Okay, I might make a part two to this, might make some revamps or some adjustments to some things that I said. So probably expect that. But for now, I'm uploading it, I'm recording it, and I'm basically giving you permission or what's the word? I'm advising you to use it. Okay. If I'm posting it and I'm uploading it, I'm advising you to use it, and it's a good concept to use. Typically, right? Because I'm not going to upload no BS fan made concept. Everything that's on this channel is officially from ICT. Understood? Okay, understood. All right, this is the end of defensive and offensive arrays, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Good luck and good trading.